have Unit 4, 5, and 6. Unit 4 is Economic Environment, Unit 5 is Political and Legal Environment, and Unit 6 is Social Cultural Environment. So today we are going to start with Unit 4 and 5, that is Economic Environment and Political and Legal Environment. Let me share a screen with you all. I hope the screen is visible to you all. Right. In the economic environment, we are going to study in detail about type of economic systems, business cycles, and inflation causes and measures. Now, let us start with the economic system. Economic system is a social organism through which people make their living. It is constituted for all those individuals, households, farms, firms, factories, banks, and governments which act and interact to produce and consume goods and services. Now, economic system is a social atmosphere where we all live together. Either it may be an individual or it may be a household or the firms, factories, banks, governments, anything, any kind of individual association or a group of people association, or it may be any institution which is a part of the society where people or the institutions interact with each other to produce and to consume the goods and services. We call it as economic system. Then which act and individuals and households put their resources like land, labor, capital, and skills to one or more of their alternative uses and make their living. Firms by factors of production and organize them in the production process of production, produce goods and services, and sell them to their users to make profits. Now, the individuals or the households, they use these four factors of production, that is land, labor, capital, and organization, that is the skills, with which way they involve themselves into the factors of production and organize them in the process of production and produce goods and services. After producing the goods and services, after manufacturing the goods and services, they will sell them in the market. Consumers are able to get the goods and services of their requirements. Producers are able to produce and sell various kinds of products in appropriate quantities, and so on. So it is a mutual benefit that goes between the producers and the consumers. Consumers are able to get the goods and services whatever the as per their requirements, and producers, after understanding what consumer need, producer will produce and sell the various types of products or commodities in an appropriate quantities to the public. The system is operated by what Adam Smith called invisible hands, the market forces of demand and supply. When we talk about demand and supply, here how the demand is increasing, based on the demand, the supply of the products or goods and services must be made into the market. And this demand and supply fluctuations, who will be operating it, that is very difficult to say because it runs in the invisible hands. We can't see who is a particular person or an institution who changes this demand and supply conditions. Hence, Adam Smith said this as invisible hands. The modern economic system is enormously complex. Millions of people participate and contribute to its working and different capacities as producers, traders, workers, consumers, and financiers, and so on. Now, when we talk about the modern economic system, it is very complex, it is very difficult to understand because n number of peoples are involved and contributing towards the working of this economic system. There are n number of different type of people who are involved into this modern economic system. The classification of economic system includes free economies, capitalist economies, socialist economies, and mixed economies. Now let us try to understand individually one after the other. Now here in the first one we have free economist. Now free economy means A free economy is also known as a free market economy. It is a type of economy where economic players make decisions freely through market forces with little or no government interference. Now, free economy is a situation where, without the interference of the government, the economic system, the players of the economic system will run the market. So, that is a free economy system. Supply and demand are guiding principles for production and distribution of the free economy. There is no particular authority who will have an implication of power on this type of economy. Here, supply and demand forces will guide the production and distribution in the free economy. Business organizations determine prices competitively while consumers play an active role in this market. Any kind of market, consumers plays a very active and prominent role. When we see free economy, the business organizations who produce the goods, they will decide the price competitive basis. Characteristics of free economy, it is market driven because here government cannot have any access, government cannot have any implication on these type of businesses, hence it is a market driven one. The demand and supply forces will determine these kind of markets. Limited government role, as we have seen in the previous paragraph, that in free economy, market role is very limited, whereas market operations role is very high in case of the free economy system. Private ownership. Most resources and enterprises are privately owned. And competition, high level of competition among the business lead to innovation and efficiency. So there is a high level of competition that exists between the different business organizations, which also helps in innovating the new products or new things, and efficiency will be improved. The second type of economy we have is capitalist economy. A capitalist economy refers to an economic system which the production factors are owned primarily by individuals and their entities engaged in commerce chiefly to generate income. So in a capitalist economy, the individual owns the particular organization factors of production and they are engaged into generate the income. Their motive is to earn profit. Capital is a system main growth source while market forces are in charge of resource distribution. So in the capitalist economy, capital plays a major important role. Then when we see the capitalist economy characteristics, private property, individuals and businesses own and control the property and resources. Profit motive, the main reason to operate the business in a capitalist economy is to generate or earn profit. Market competition, competition among business leads to efficiency and innovation. So here, with the help of competition, efficiency will be improved and innovations can be taken place. Sorry. Then economic freedom. Individuals can choose occupations, investments and consumption. So there is a freedom of choosing occupation, investment avenues and consumption levels. Minimal government interference. Even in capitalist economy, we can see that the government interference is limited to some extent. They involve minimum interventions in that they only provide law and order and ensure contract connection and ownership. So the minimal government interference is restricted only to provide the law and order to the particular organizations. Then the third type of economy we can see is socialist economy. Now, socialist economy is one in which the government or the community owns most economic activities. Unlike the free and the capitalist economy, in socialist economy, government interference will be there at a highest level. The main goal is to restore fairness in the distribution of the money and provide baseline services to equal people. Now, whenever we talk about the government interference, it mostly talk about the society welfare or providing services equally to all types of people who resides in a particular country. Characteristics of socialist economy is a public ownership because it is a public, that is the government interference is there. So public ownership, the state owns and controls major industries and resources. Central planning, the government plans and manages economic activities to ensure equitable distribution. Social welfare, stress on offering the entire population social needs such as health, education, and shelter. Reduced inequality. Efforts are made to minimize income and wealth differences. And a limited market role. Market plays a minor role with the most decisions made through the central planning. Most decisions made by the government, central government through the central planning. Hence, when there is a highest role involved by the government, there is obviously a less role played by the market. So, in this particular socialist economy, government role is major and market role is minor. And the last one we have is mixed economy. The mixed economy is the biggest form of economy in which the principle of capitalism and socialism both exist. So they follow both capitalism and socialism. It involves personal and state ownership of assets and permits market forces and state interference. It is a combination of both market as well as the government having the authority over the production and sales of the entire business organizations. When we see the characteristics of mixed economy, coexistence of sectors, both private sector and public sectors coexist and operate in the economy. Regulated markets. The government regulates certain industries to ensure fairness and prevent monopolies. Social welfare programs. The state provides essential services like healthcare, education, and social security to the public. Balanced approach aims to balance economic efficiency with social equity, economic freedom with control. Individuals and business have economic freedom with a regulatory framework. So mostly mixed economy is a combination of both socialist as well as capitalist economy. Few sectors we can see there is a private people taking over it, and few sectors we can see there is complete control is in the hands of the government. And some of the sectors there will be both the private sector as well as the public sector having the existence and operates in the economy. India is the best example for this mixed economy. In India, when we can see some of the sectors where some are restricted purely to the government sector, some are restricted purely to the private sector, and some sectors are owned by both private as well as public. In Telangana, if you see RTC, it is both public sector as well as private sector. Some of the vehicles are operated by the private organizations and some of the vehicles are operated by the public authorities. So this is the economic system which we follow in India. And the next topic we have is business cycles. When we talk about economic environment includes all about the business, how the business is affected from the external environment, because economic environment is something which is macro in nature, external in nature, where business have no control over it. So in that, one of the aspect we have to study the business environment from the economic aspect, that is business cycles. Business cycle or booms and slumps in the economic activities reflects the upward and downward movements in economic variables. The typical business cycle has four distinct phases: expansion, also called as boom or upswing; peak or boom or prosperity; contraction; and trough or depression. So these are the four cycles which you can see in a business. Now with the graph, it is clearly explained. If you see the downward trend, the business is all about every time business may not have a highest peaks or lowest troughs, but sometimes it will be in a flexible manner. It will expand, it will contract, it will expand, and it will contract. This is a trend which we can see in the business, every business. So these are the phases of business cycles. Now let us try to understand each business cycle in detail. The first one is expansion phase. The expansion phase is characterized by increase in national output, employment, aggregate demand, capital and consumer expenditure, sales, profits, rising stock prices, and bank credit. Expansion is all about everything in a higher manner, increased way. Your demand will be increased, your supply will be increased, sales will be increased. When sales are increased, profits will be increased. When profits are increased, the business is running in a successful way. Hence, the stock market prices also increases, the bank credit also increases. So it's all about expansion, that is the increasing level. The state continues till there is a full employment of resources. There are n number of available employment resources, and production is at its maximum possible level using available productive resources. There will be higher production. When there is a higher production, there will be higher employment opportunities to the public of that particular country. Involuntary unemployment is almost zero, and whatever unemployment is there is either frictional due to change of the jobs, or suspended due to work or strikes, or due to imperfect mobility of the labor. That means we cannot see any unemployment situation when there is a expansion stage, because when we talk about expansion, it is all about covering the uncovered aspects. So it is something like there is no question of unemployment situation in the country. Employment will be provided to almost every person because of the expansion stage. Some of the unemployment changes we can see that maybe because of the people are changing, shifting from one job to the another job, or they got suspended because of some of the reasons, or some of the companies they are into the strike period. Hence, the people are unemployed for a temporary period of time. Due to these situations, there might be an unemployment condition, but otherwise there won't be an unemployment situation in the expansion stage. Then the prices and cost also tend to rise faster. As I explained, everything will be higher, increased, rise in nature. Good amount of net investments occurs, and demand for all types of goods and services also rises. So this is about the expansion stage. The next stage is peak stage. It is a stage, it is the later stage of expansion. After the expansion, we come to a highest stage where we have the peak stage, where the inputs are difficult to find as they are short of their demand, and therefore input prices increases, because we have reached to a certain higher level where the input prices will be increased because of the shortage of the input resources. As the input prices increases, the output prices also rises rapidly, leading to increased cost of living, greater strain on fixed income earners. Consumer begins to review their consumption expenditure on housing, durable goods. Actual demand stagnates. This is the end of expansion stage. Now expansion, as it expands, and after it reaches to a peak stage, it will stop expanding. Now after peak stage, we come to a stage called contraction. During the contraction, there is a fall in the levels of investment and employment. The employment levels will be reduced, and the investment levels will also reduce. Producers do not instantaneously recognize the pulse of the economy and continue anticipating higher levels of demand, and therefore maintain their existing levels of investment and production. Now, contraction is a danger level of a situation phase where the producers will take any kind of a step with careful attention, because it is a stage where the demand will be very high, but at the same time the unemployment is increased, levels of investment also increases. As the demand increases, supply far exceeds the demand. This is the turning point and beginning of recession. It is something which leads to the declining level, that is the recession. Decrease in input demand pulls input prices down. As the demand decreases, prices also decreases. Input prices decreases. Income of wage and interest earners gradually decline, resulting in decreased demand for goods and services. It is contraction is a one particular stage. It is quite opposite to the expansion. In expansion, we can see every element, every activity's value will be increasing in nature. Whereas in contraction, every element, every aspect's value will be decreasing in nature. It will keep on declining. Producers lower their prices in order to dispose of their inventories and to meet and for meeting their financial obligations. Producers, they don't go with the new production, but what they feel is at this particular stage they want their entire stock should be sold out so that their financial obligation will be satisfied. Consumers in turn expect further decrease in the prices because in contraction the prices will get decreased. Consumer expects much more decrease in the price, so they keep on postponing the purchases of whatever the requirement. Investments start declining, production and employment declining, result in further decline in incomes, demand and consumption of both capital goods as well as consumer goods. As we can see in the contraction stage, every element, every activity's value will be reduced, declining. The process of recession is complete and severe contraction in the economic activities pushes the economy into the phase of depression. After the contraction, it is a phase of the depression. Now depression, this is the phase of a business cycle where growth rate becomes negative. Here there is no growth, we can see zero growth. Instead of having a neutral growth, we can see a negative growth. The levels of national income and the expenditure declines rapidly. Demand for products and services decreases. Prices at a lower level and decline rapidly, forcing firms to shut down several production facilities. Since the companies are unable to sustain their workforce, there is a mounting unemployment which leaves the consumer with very little disposable income. Now, where this is particular stage where everything will be in a negative aspect, everything will be in a the closing stage of the business or the shutdown stage of the business where everything the unemployment levels will be very high and the consumers will be left with a little amount to spend on purchases. A typical feature of depression is a fall in the interest rate. With a lower rate of interest, people demand for holding liquid money, that is in cash. People tend to have more of cash into their hand. Despite lower interest rates, the demand for the credit declines because investors' confidence has fallen. Because there is a depression going on in the market, the prices will be very high, but the spending capacity of the public will be very low. They can't purchase the goods or the services, they can't avail the services as the inflation rate will be very high. At the depth of depression, all economic activities touches the bottom and the phase of straw is reached. Now, this is one particular negative stage. After that, we come to a last stage of the business cycle, that is recovery stage. The economy cannot continue to contract endlessly. As we have seen the previous stages like expansion, peak, contraction, depression, these stages cannot sustain for a longer period. Expansion may be there for some certain period. After that, it reaches to peak. Now, after peak, then it goes to the contraction and depression. Like that, there will be continuous change in the business cycles also. The economy cannot end the business by at the contraction level itself. It reaches to the lowest level of economic activity, that is depression, and then starts recovering. After reaching the depression, that is the negative level, then it slowly starts recovering from the depression level. That lasts for some time and marks the end of the pessimism and the beginning of optimism. This reverses the process. Again, there will be a reverse of the process. After recovery, again it starts with the expansion away. Again, it goes to the peak, contraction, depression. Again, it comes to the recovery. Like that, the business cycle is a continuous. As the cycle we can see a round, same way the cycles also have a circular motion that after reaching one phase to the another phase, it will continuously keep on revolving. It won't stop with any particular level of phase of business cycle. Now, examples of business cycles in the year 1930, there was a great depression in the entire world. Then in the year 2000, there was IT technology bubble burst. That is, in the year 2000, there was only a recession which we can see in the IT sector. Then from 2008 to 2009, 1 year, we had a global economic crisis. So like that, there are different business cycles which we can see in a different, year. Now, another concept in economic environment we have is inflation. Inflation is a gradual loss of purchasing power that results in a significant increase in the prices of goods and services over a period of time. The general phenomena we usually talk that the prices of the goods are increased, but the income levels of the people or the earning capacity of the people is not increased. Then in that case, as a citizen of that particular country, the purchasing power will be reduced. That particular reduction in the purchasing power capacity, we call it as inflation. The inflation rate is calculated by averaging the price increase of a basket of selected goods and services over a period of year. Higher inflation means that the prices are rising rapidly, whereas low inflation means that the prices are rising more slowly. Inflation means rise in the price, but high inflation means prices are rising very fastly, and low inflation means prices are rising very slowly. Now, what causes this inflation prices? Inflation prices Inflation arises from demand pull factors, cost push factors, demand pull, cost push factors, supply shocks, increased money supply, wages price spirals, inflation expectation, and certain fiscal policies. Let us try to understand these individually. Demand pull factors. When demand for the goods and services exceeds supply is limited but the demand is very high, then in that case the prices increases. Then cost push factors, rise in the production cost can also cause inflation. As the cost of the production, land, labor, capital, organization increases, it will have an impact on the prices of the goods. So as the cost increases, the price also increases. So that is cost push factors. Then supply shocks. Sudden disruption or to supply, such as natural disasters, conflicts, or pandemics. Like currently, we are seeing there is a war situation that is going on, and the crude oil prices are very much increased. This is something called supply shocks, that the supply of crude oil is very limited into the country. Hence, the availability of certain critical goods is very reduced. That leads to the inflation, rise in the prices. As we can see, the rise in the prices of the petrol or diesel, that is because of the supply shocks, that is the sudden natural pandemics which you can see. Same thing we have seen at the time of COVID pandemic. The prices of the goods are increased because there was a shortage of availability of goods and services. This particular situation we call it as supply shocks. Then increased money supply. A significant increase in the money supply can drive inflation as more cash circulating in the economy fuels higher demand. If cash is circulating within the economy in a very higher way, obviously the prices, people don't spend the money in a careful way. They literally they will spend the money in a lavish way. Hence, that leads to the inflation, increase in the rates of the prices of goods and services. So that is because of the increased money supply. Then wage price spirals. When workers demand higher wages to cope with the rising prices, but business often raise prices to cover these increased labor costs. This cycle is known as wage price spiral. Now, this is a situation where workers, they demand for high salaries. Why? Because the prices of the products are increased in the market. But why the prices are increased? The prices are increased because the manufacturers are paying higher cost to the higher wages to the workers. So it is something like spiral in nature, attached with each and everything. As wage increases, because the price increases, the wages must be increased. But why the price is increased? Because the wages have increased, the prices are also increased. It is something which is closely related to each other. So that is a situation where the prices also increases. That leads to the increase in the inflation price. Then inflation expectations, when people expect inflation to persist, they may be demand higher wages and buy goods now to avoid future price increases, reinforcing inflation. Sometimes it so happens that people will expect that in future the prices may be high. The people started purchasing the products now itself. That is, the future demand is met in the current situation. In that case also the inflation will be increased. Fiscal policies. Government policies like tax cuts or increased public spending can raise overall demand, leading to inflation of its economy. Say, for example, the tax rates. Recently, the GST rates have been reduced to 5%, 18% to 5% on some of the goods, right? So, as the tax rate is reduced, people started purchasing more of these goods. That leads to the increase in the inflation prices. So, any change in the policy will definitely have an impact on the inflation rate. So, these are some of the reasons or causes which leads to the inflation in the country. Now, measures of inflation. How to measure the inflation? Inflation is measured using indices that track price changes in a basket of goods and services over a period of time. A price index is a statistical measure that reflects change in an average price level relative to the base year. How we are going to calculate the inflation? Based on the indices, based on the indices. That is, we have price index, wholesale price index and consumer price index. Now, wholesale price index is WPI, measures and tracks price changes in the wholesale market, focusing on goods traded between companies. So, wholesale price index is used to understand the wholesale market price changes and how the trend is going on in the wholesale market. Now, when we say wholesale market, it does not include services, whereas consumer price index tracks changes in the cost of a typical basket of goods and services over a period of time, reflecting the overall shift in the consumer prices. Wholesale price index is all about the wholesale prices, wholesale products and services, that is mainly representing the business organization, whereas consumer price index is typically related to a particular consumer purchasing goods and services over a period of time. How the changes are happening in the goods and services of consumer goods over a period of time. Now, in wholesale, services is not included, whereas in consumer, services is included. Then we have something called producer price index, measures the price changes from the perspective of the producers, capturing input changes across manufacturing and production sectors. So producer price index is all about producers, the persons who are manufacturing the goods and services. So hence it includes input cost of production and manufacturing sectors. This is the way we are going to measure the inflation. With this unit 4, that is economic environment, is covered, and the unit 5 we have political environment, political and legal environment. Let us study individually what is political and what is legal environment. Now, political environment refers to a system of governmental institutions, political parties, laws, regulations, and other political factors that influence business and society both domestically and internationally. When we say political, we cannot study only domestical political environment. We have to study both internationally as well as domestically. It includes everything related to the government institutions, political parties, political factors which have an influence on the business as well as on the society. It encompasses everything from government action that helps or hinder business operations to the overreaching political stability and structure of a nation. As we all know that the political environment have a major impact on the business, because whichever party is in ruling, that party's policies, the changes of policies will have a major impact on the business. Hence, political stability and structures of the nations are very important in determining the business, whether these political environment is helping the business or hindering, limiting the business operations. Now, when we see the key components of political environment, we have government institutions. The structure and function of government bodies such as legislative, executive and judicial branches will have a major impact because these are the people who decide, who will frame the policies, rules, regulations of the businesses. Hence, government institutions have an impact on the business organizations. Political parties and their ideologies, the role and the influence of different political parties and their ideologies on policy and governance. Now we can see that in Telangana, previously we had a BRS party who was ruling the Telangana. Now we have Congress party who is ruling the Telangana. The ideology and the level of managing the governance is different from one party to the another party. So hence, political parties, ideologies also have an impact on the business. Laws and regulations, the legal framework, it may be tax related legal framework, trade related labor laws, or import export trade related laws, or environmental protection laws have a major impact on the business. Say for example, now we are having the sustainable development or sustainable environment, green environment, or we say that ecological and organic way of doing the business, these kind of laws and regulations have an impact on the business organization. Political stability and risk, the degree of stability in a nation's political system which affects the level of uncertainty and risk of a business operating within it. Now, political stability, any political party who is occupying the nation's power has to be stable in for a particular period of time. As the political instability is there, the risk will be very higher. So, in order to reduce the uncertainty and the risk of the business operations, it is very important to have a political stability in the economy. Then government activities, the direct actions and interventions of government in the economy and business activities, giving subsidies to the businesses who are doing some ecological or sustainable related development. Such policies or such activities will have an impact on the business. Hence, whatever the government activities that the government will take up will have an impact on the business. Then we have interest groups, the public, economic, and the value oriented groups and the political decision making processes will have an impact on the uh, business organizations. So, this is about the political environment and the components of political environment. Then we have legal environment. The legal environment refers to the collection of laws, regulations, statutes, and rules that govern how business and individual operate within a specific country or region. The legal environment related to the acts which we follow. Like in the previous class, I have explained you that if anyone want to start a partnership firm, they have to get registered and they have to follow the rules and regulations, adhere to the rules and regulations of Partnership Act 1932. Same way, joint stock companies have to follow Companies Act. So, like that, these are all falls under the legal environment. So, any business who is operating in a particular legal environment, they have to follow specific country's rules and regulations. Say, for example, MNCs, multinational companies, so the company belong to US, but when they are operating in India, they have to adhere, they have to follow the rules and regulations of the Indian government. That falls under the legal environment. It provides the framework for business to function ethically and legally, ensuring fair competition, protecting consumer and workers' rights, and enforcing contracts and other agreements. The legal environment basically related to the legal rules, legal laws relating to the business. Now, aspects of legal environment, we have contract law because business is all about dealing with the people. Two people, they have to mutually understand and they have to start, they have to run the business. So there must be a contract exist between the parties. So contract law they have to follow. Intellectual property laws, like we have patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Consumer protection laws to ensure products are safe and customers are treated fairly. Employment law, that is workers' condition, wages, and worker rights. Environmental law sets standards for business to operate in an environmentally responsible manner, that is sustainable manner. Taxation law, the rules that a business has to follow, the business tax and financial reporting. Regulatory bodies, like if it is a bank, they have to follow RBI rules and regulations. If it is an insurance company, they have to follow IRDA rules and regulations. If it is a telecom industry, they have to follow TRAI rules and regulations. So, like that, regulatory bodies. Legal framework, they established a system of laws provided a predictable and consistent basis for business to make decisions. So, any legal framework which is provided specially meant for the business organizations to make the appropriate decisions. Dispute resolution, in case if they are involved into any of the conflict, then there must be a system to resolve these conflicts. That is, the legal system offers mechanisms like courts and arbitration to resolve conflicts between businesses or between businesses and individuals. These are some of the components of legal environment. Then one of the concepts we have is FERA, that is Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, was a central piece of legislation governing foreign exchange transactions in India during the period of highly controlled economic regime. It is one of the economic regime where Foreign Exchange Regulation Act is all about governing the foreign exchange transactions in India. FERA shaped India's banking, financial system, and external economic relations for several decades. Its provisions reflecting the economic priorities of post-independence India, where self-reliance, import substitution, and strict state control over foreign exchanges were considered essential for economic stability. So FERA is very important because after the post-independence India and after we started taking up other countries coming into India, then we have to deal with this foreign exchange because the currencies of different countries are different. So when other countries' currency is entering into the India, they have to deal with the foreign exchange transactions. Hence, for foreign exchange transactions, FERA Act came into existence. FERA was first introduced in 1947, immediately after India gained independence, and it was comprehensively revised and reenacted in the year 1973. The act emerged in a context of chronic foreign exchange shortages, limited exports capacity, and heavy dependence on imports for industrial and developmental needs. So this FERA is introduced in this particular years and reenacted. The main concept of introducing the FERA is to have increase the exports and imports and dependence on imports for the industrial and developmental needs. The main objective of FERA was to conservation of foreign exchange and its judicial utilization in accordance with the national priorities, to regulate the payment, dealing in foreign exchange and transactions involving foreign securities. Any foreign securities who are investing, the people from other countries who are investing in India, or the people who are working in other country and sending money to India, or the one who is involved into import and export transactions, they all fall under this particular category of Foreign Exchange Act. Now, the key provisions of this act is, the major provisions are mandatory approval for almost all foreign exchange transactions. It is very important, very compulsory for all types of foreign exchange transactions. Strict regulations of import and export of currencies and securities, control on foreign investment and ownership in Indian companies, restriction on holding foreign assets by residents, and regulation of employment of foreign nationals in Indian firms. These are some of the provisions, these are some of the activities because of which the Act came into existence. So this is about the FEDA Act. With this, the economic environment and political and legal environment, that is Block 2, Unit 4 and Unit 5 is completed. And Unit 6 we have social and cultural environment. Now, social cultural environment refers to the customs, lifestyles, values, and demographic characteristics of a society in which an organization operates. So it is related to the social and cultural. That means the public who are residing in that particular society, their customs, lifestyles, values, or the demographic variables that all included in the social cultural environment. The social cultural factors are critical for business because they affect market trends, employee engagement, and customer relationships. Because for every business, the customer is the main source of the income. Hence, understanding the customer from all these perspective is very important. Not only the customer, but the people who are into the management, people who are into the business, who run the business. For that also, understanding the employee background, understanding the employee lifestyle is very important for every organization. When we see the characteristics of socio-cultural environment, diversity. In India, we can see wide diversity of ethnicity, different culture, different religion, language, social classes, like we have caste system, each with unique cultural practices and beliefs. Then dynamism. Socio-cultural environment is something which is very dynamic in nature. It will keep changing. The social values or the social, the lifestyle of the public or the trends of fashion, diet, technology are keep changing. Hence, it is dynamic. Socio-cultural environment is dynamic in nature. Cultural depth. Culture has layers that includes visible elements like clothing and food. Just a minute. Clothing and food, and deeper elements like beliefs, values, and perception. Like cultural depth, we can say an example that in different religions, different food habits will be there. In Brahmins, they don't have, they are the pure vegetarians, and some of the Marwadi communities, they are the pure vegetarians. So, like that, cultural depth we can understand based on their beliefs, values, and perceptions. Social norms. These are established rules of behavior or standards of a conduct that are considered acceptable in a group of society. The social norms, that how they have to behave, what the standard of conduct that has to be maintained by the these public in the society. That is the social norms, which are having an impact on the business organization. Then lifestyle patterns. Lifestyle tends to indicate how people spend their money and time, affecting their buying habits and consumption. Now we have this generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen like that. These generations also have the spending behavior, buying habits, and consumption. When we see Gen Z, they are having the highest buying habits and highest consumption habits. They spend most of their time on a particular social media activities. Like that, lifestyle patterns also have an impact on the business. Language and communication. Language, that is in the form of symbols, non-verbal cues, and the context are very important for engaging effectively with different populations. As business, they cannot run in isolation. They have to be expanding their business operations in different areas. Hence, language is most important to understand and to operate the business in that particular context. So understanding the language and communicating with the different cultures is very important for any business. Ethical values and legality. Different societies have varying ethical standards and legal restrictions which can influence business operations, especially in the areas like labor practices, marketing, and corporate governance. So, different societies will have a different type of ethical standards and legal restrictions. So, understanding these ethical standards and legalities are very important when they are marketing any particular product or when they are dealing with the labor practices. Demographic factors. Age distribution. how the age that is distributed among the population. Say, for example, in China, we say that the old age people are very high. In India, we say that the youth population is very high. Like that, age distribution, population growth rate, education levels, family structure influence market needs and determine how products should be tailored for different segments of population based on the age, based on the education levels and family structure. Like we have neutral families or combined families. So, based on these family structures, understanding all this will help the businesses to produce the products which are required to this particular type of family structures or age distributed people. Then components of socio-cultural environment, we have values and beliefs. The values and beliefs of that particular culture. Then norms and customs, this particular terms and conditions of a particular society, how they have to accept, how they have to behave in a particular society, or communication styles, business etiquettes, or consumer behavior includes norms and customs. Language and communication, as I explained, language and communication is very important to understand for every business. Religion. Religious beliefs and practices plays a significant role in shaping societal norms and consumer behaviors. So, like that, religion also have a major impact on business organization to whom we are producing the goods. So, based on the religion also, the products must be redefined. Education and literacy. The education also have a major impact on the business organizations because the people who are educated or the people who are having a higher literacy rate, for them the goods must be tailored in such a way that are useful to the a set of skilled persons. So education and literacy is also another important aspect. Arts and aesthetics, it includes art, music, dance, and literature prevalent in a society. Based on these particular aspects, also, one must have to, the business has to produce the goods according to these particular aspects. The entertainment choices, advertising preferences, all this fall under the art and aesthetics. Then social institutions. Social institutions like we have family, educational institutions, political structures like we have Gurukula schools, which are meant for the students to induce the value education among the students. So, like that, political structures, religious organizations also help in social cultural environment by influencing roles, responsibilities, and expectations. Then we have demographic variables such as age distribution, gender ratio, whether the males are more or the females are more, family size, number of family members who are included in a particular family, whether four-member family, two-member family, or six or eight-member family, urbanization level like rural or urban or remote rural, migration patterns, whether they are migrated from one country to the another country or one state to the another state, and population growth rates also includes in the demographic variables. Then we have lifestyle trends. These are the patterns of behavior of lifestyle characterize a society at a particular time. That means what kind of health conscious people they are, what is the activities they do at the time of their leisure period, what are the technological advancements. So based on the lifestyle also, we have to produce the goods and services according to their lifestyle trends. These are some of the components of socio-economic constituents of socio and cultural environment. Then we have something called consumer protection. Consumer protection means safeguarding the interest and rights of the consumer. When we purchase any goods, it is the responsibility of some of the institutions or businesses or the government that they should give the consumer the good product, the right quantity, and every consumer has the rights. So, to protect these rights, consumer protection came into existence. It refers to the measures adopted for the protection of consumers from unsurplus or unethical malpractices by the business to provide them speedy redressal of their grievances. If a consumer got any kind of problem, then they can go to the Consumer Protection Council to raise a complaint, and they can easily get solution from these particular councils. The most common business malpractices leading to consumer exploitation are given below. Now, when there is a need of consumer protection, when the business do some malpractices, the malpractices include sale of adulterated goods. Adulterated goods means adding something inferior to the product being sold. Sale of spurious goods, that is selling something of little value instead of real product. Sale of substandard goods, that is the sale of goods which do not conform a prescribed quality standards, that is less standard goods. Sale of duplicate goods. Use of false weights and measure leading to underweight. When we purchase 1 kg, but ultimately after coming home, we realize that it is not 1 kg, it is 800 grams or 850 grams kind of a thing. Hoarding and black marketing leading to scarcity and rise in the price. Uh, Spreading a gossip saying that the prices may not be available, then people will start purchasing the product, assuming that the product may not be available, and to grasp that particular high demand, these businesses will increase the prices, charging more than the MRP. MRP is 10 rupees, but the person who is selling the good may be 12 rupees. So in that case, we can go to the consumer forum because they are charging more than the MRP. Supply of defective goods, misleading advertisements, that is advertisements falsely claiming a product or service to be superior quality, grade or standard. Say for example, on the product it is mentioned as it is a organic product, but when you see the ingredients, everything, there are certain chemicals which are involved included in that product which are not organic at all. So that leads to the misleading advertisement. So all these are some of the reasons of cheating the consumer. In this way, when the consumer is cheated, they can go to the consumer councils to get the protection against these particular misleading or misappropriations that takes place at the time of purchase. So this is consumer protection. And the last topic we have is consumer corporate governance. Corporate governance is a system of rules, practices, and processes by which a firm is directed and controlled. Essentially involves balancing the interest of the company's many stakeholders such as shareholders, senior management, executives, consumers, suppliers, financiers, and the government and the community. So, corporate governance is rules and practices processed by a firm, which a firm is directed and controlled. How the firm has to be directed, how the business has to be directed and controlled. That includes a set of rules and practices or processes that we call it as corporate governance. Corporate governance includes the process through which the corporation's objectives are set and pursued in the context of the social, regulatory, and market environment. So corporate governance, that is the business organizations, when they start the business organization, they start with an objective of either to earn the profit or to provide service to the society. So based on the objectives, how they are going to run the organizations in the society with considering the social, regulatory and marketing environment, we call it as corporate governance. Need for corporate governance, because of the widespread of the shareholders, it is very important to understand the corporate governance. Today, a company has very large number of shareholders spread all over the nation, even the world. Hence, the idea of shareholder democracy defines confined only to the law and articles of association, which required a practical implementation through a code of conduct of corporate governance. So, as the stakeholders are many, spread over across the world, hence there must be a code of conduct, the do's and don'ts of business that explains about your corporate governance. Right. I stop the topic here itself. In the next class, I'll continue with the few more topics in the block 2. Then we will start with the block 3. I hope today's class is very informative. You understood the concepts. Let us meet in the next class. Have a nice day. We'll meet again in the next class. Thank you.